Julio Jones is signing a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is this signing a big deal? And the real Lil will say it's a big deal because it is. I mean, look, the reason why it's a big deal, and I know a lot of people going to come to me with the injury bug. Oh, this guy's always hurt. Can he play? Can he stay on the football field? And that's a very good thing to bring up because it is what it is. I mean, I don't think talent-wise this guy has lost a step. I think arguably if he were, talked about hypotheticals in the last topic, let's talk about another one. If he were to play a full 18-game regular season or how many games, they always changing it, a regular season football play, I think he will still be a top 5 wide receiver in this league, honestly. I still think he has those capabilities, explosiveness. The guy has experience under his belt playing in the Super Bowl before, and he can make acrobatic catches. The guy has it all when he's on the football field. Now, this puts a bow, and this is why this is a big deal for me, because it puts a bow on the Buccaneers being the biggest winner of free agency. And initially, when we did our top 3 teams, I didn't have them in my top 3 teams of most improved. But now they went, from that time, they kept adding on, and now this is the bow that puts them over the top, cream of the crop. They are the biggest winners. As Zach alluded to when he had them as a winner before, they got Tom Brady off the couch. They got him away from Giselle. Okay, back into the daggone hotel. Okay, back to the football field. They got him. Okay, that's the best quarterback in the league. You know what I'm saying? The guy that should have won MVP last year, the GOAT. You got him back. So you're a winner there. You also add by subtraction. You lost a couple O-linemen. Cool. We plug in some more. We got my dude from Chicago, Akeem Hicks. I know that he's not the same dude as before, but he is actually a statistical upgrade from my guy Hadamakin Sue. What it do? You got him on that team, and now you're talking about Kyle Rudolph. And I remember on the show when we talked about replacing Gronkowski, who's going to be hard to replace, no doubt. I said that the Bucs needed to either do 2 things: load up at the wide receiver spot and get Julio Jones, or get them a veteran tight end. They did both. So, yeah, I think this makes them the number 1 winner of free agency, and I think this is why it's a big deal, because Julio Jones can still play, and he's not going to be asked to do a lot. Down the stretch, he will be a bigger factor.
Yeah, for me, I'll be honest, Julio Jones did not look like the same player as he's shown in years past last year, and he's always been the guy that, especially recently, the last 3-4 years, that has had some trouble staying on the field. With that being said, if he was going to succeed in any situation, it's Tampa. I'm sure he'll have some good games here and there, but I don't look at this signing changing the way I view the Buccaneers going into this season. They had some other options. They could have brought in OBJ. The guy I would have brought in was Cole Beasley. He's available, and I'm sure he's going to be productive for a team somewhere else this season. But I looked at Julio Jones last year in Tennessee, and he just didn't look like the same player to me. He was nowhere really close to the guy that we saw back in his heyday in Atlanta. He looked slow. He looked like he lost a step, and it sucks. He's getting older. He's had a lot of injury struggles in his career, and at his peak, he is one of the best receivers in this modern era. And at the same time, playing with Tampa Bay, it's a great situation. Gronk, we saw him come out of retirement and have some success as an older player, as a veteran. And I'm sure, once again, Julio, he'll have some good games here and there, but I don't view this as an impact signing. The guy for me I want to see in Tampa Bay is Russell Gage. I think that was a big-time signing. I think he's going to be a very productive player for Tampa Bay. Plus, having Chris Godwin back and healthy, that's going to be huge. And just as a whole, I'm very curious what the Buccaneers look like coming out of the gate. It's interesting with the NFC because it feels like kind of a top-heavy conference with Tampa Bay and the Packers and the Rams at the top, the same names, but at the same time, with a first-year head coach, with Brady almost retiring, are they going to have that same urgency as they've had, especially coming out of last year? And especially the NFC South, we'd all be very surprised if they don't win that division. I'm curious if they're going to come out right away, guns a-blazing, or if it's going to take them some time and they hit their step midway through the season. I'm curious to see how Tampa Bay comes out right off the bat.
I want to say this and this only. Julio Jones has to understand he's at the twilight of his career. He's not going to be the first option. He's not going to be the second option. Hell, he might not even be the third option on this damn team because this team looks like they're going to run the ball with Fournette and then find Mike Evans and Godwin when they're open. So Julio Jones has to prepare himself for the fact that he might not get even 60 receptions this season because the team operates solely on moving the ball wherever it goes. Tom Brady don't have a favorite target on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. That favorite target was Gronk, and he's gone. So now the ball's going to be moving all around the field, and Julio Jones has to understand that. He left the Titans because, they weren't really utilizing him on that offense, and fairly so. It's Derrick Henry first, second, and third, and then when Tannehill can find an open guy, he'll throw it. So it's interesting how this will all come out in this tandem where these three guys, plus Russell Gage, which they got, and I don't assume he's just going to be playing the bench waiting to get his time in because he already proved himself in Atlanta Falcons. He could be a useful receiver. And I thought him playing the slot would have been great for this team, but when Julio Jones is available, of course you go after the more talented guy on the free agency to come for this team. I don't know how it's going to really work. I could see a similar situation with AB where Julio Jones goes, I'm not getting the ball. Give me the ball. In a sense where he's kind of fishing to get more receptions. I'm not saying Tom Brady's going to just ignore him or not look for him, but we all know Tom Brady as a quarterback. Some games it's Mike Evans' game. Some games it's Godwin's game. Some games it was AB's game. Some games it was Gronk. It's not always we're looking for you every time down the field. So that's something that Julio Jones has to understand coming in here. It's about team wins, not about personal records or gains or receptions. And I think hopefully if it could work, it'll be an amazing tandem to see because Julio Jones, when healthy, one of the more if not one the most unguardable receiver out there. The only issue would be is he looking to get his yards up to prove that he could still be a number one receiver, or he's looking to be helpful to a team to win a championship. So that's something I have to see coming into the season. I
think when you make the move to go to Tampa Bay, that. I mean, that's the devil in the detail. You won't sign there to be the guy because I'm pretty sure, around the league, he knows Mike Evans is there. He knows Chris Godwin is there. So, you slide in at best to that third spot. And I think, he wouldn't have signed there if he didn't know that. And I think also, that is a fair point that he should know that some days it's going to be Mike Evans' number that's going to be called because Mike Evans, sometimes his number wasn't called. And he was mature enough and a team player enough to know that and know that his day was coming. Same thing with Chris Godwin. Some days it's not going to be him. Some days it will be him. And like Antonio Brown when he was there, sometimes it was the Antonio Brown game. So I think right now at Julio's stage, the only thing missing, Super Bowl. And I think Tom Brady's the right guy to go. Hell, Larry Fitzgerald, my brother, is one of my favorite players ever to watch in the NFL. And that's one of the guys that I want to see win a ring. Come on, brother. Come right along. Sign and join us so we can go win this ring together. We get rich together. Okay, let's do it. But I would say this. Another reason why that this is a big deal for me is because of depth. When I say big deal, I'm not talking about, Julio Jones just going to come over here and have 1,000 yards and we're going to have 3,000 yards wide receivers. It's not about that. It's about the depth. Because as I watch sports, NBA, NFL, I noticed in the last couple years, both sports, that the team that won the chip has been the healthiest team. And yeah, injuries are going to come, right? It came for the Warriors. Right. It came for all the teams half the time that win a championship, but they have guys that can replace guys that go out. And sometimes they get those guys to come back in the nick of time. When I look at last year, we lost my guy, Chris Godwin. I don't know how the hell his name went black. And I said his name about 5 times. But Chris Godwin, we lost him to an ACL injury. And then Antonio Brown just ditched us mid-game. We didn't have another body to replace us. You know what I'm saying? We had to count on rookies and second-year players, and they didn't show up, okay? The year before, Mike Evans going for a record, week 17 had a hyperextended knee. Fortunately, to come back, wild card a week after, but that could have been worse, and he's been dealing with hamstring injuries over the course of his career. So in the scenario, in the scenario where Julio Jones doesn't work for whatever reason and he can't work, okay, cool. We literally $6 million is a contract that I saw today. All right, we got Russell Gage as our third guy. What if somebody else get hurt? Okay, then we have another guy. So that's why it's a big deal because it gives us the depth that we need at the position to overcome the injury bug that goes around in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I do think when you look at the Bucs, they do have depth at that wide receiver position, and it's interesting with Leonard Fournette and all the concerns that are around with his weight. Like, I'm curious to see what Tampa Bay does with the running game as well. They don't have a lot of depth at that position behind him, so they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. We know how Tom Brady rolls, and once again, I'm curious when it comes to Tampa Bay. Like, I don't really have that strong of a feeling on the top of the NFC right now. Like, if you tell me like Tampa Bay goes to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me the Rams are back in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked. Even Green Bay, like I know they've had their playoff struggles, but they've been a really good team over the past years. Like I don't really have a strong feeling on any of those teams, like right off the bat, just because they've been through a lot of change. Like I think the Rams are going to be right there. But like I don't think they're by far and away better than Tampa Bay or far and away better than Green Bay. And the Packers lost Adams. The Buccaneers have a new coach. Like there are a lot of moving parts in the NFC. And I'm even curious, like, could a surprise team emerge? Could a Philadelphia, could a Minnesota, San Francisco with Trey Lance, like could a team like that rise up to the occasion in the NFC? Because right now, like as we get closer to the season, it's hard to pick playoff teams in both conferences, but in the AFC, everyone has their teams that they like right off the bat and say, okay, we're picking these guys to make the playoffs, no doubt. In the NFC, it's going to take some more time. There are going to be some more open spots. So I'm very curious to see what this conference looks like as we head into next season with so much turnover and Russell Wilson's out of the conference. It's just not as strong as the conference as it used to be.
I would say this, and Zach, I don't want to abandon your take. Trust me, when I leave off here, I would address what you just said. But there's a point that I forgot to bring up, actually. When you think about the Buccaneers wide receiver history within the last decade, even before Brady, they've been the wide receiver university of the NFL. They had guys like Deshaun Jackson over there. They had other guys over there, weapons at the wide receiver position. They literally switch out wide receivers like it's nothing, like it's sneakers. That's what they do over there. And that's why another reason why guys want to go over there. Yes, Brady has a lot to do with it and Brady's recruiting, but when you go there, that's where wide receivers go. You see guys like my guy, Marquise Brown, that say, oh, this system don't fit me. And you can argue, he dropped a lot of balls and you can come at him with that. But there's certain situations where wide receivers do not want to be. Ravens will be one of them because they run the football. The Titans, ironically, where Julio Jones just came from, will be another because they run the football. But Tampa Bay is one of those franchises, and the Cardinals, where you will want to go to, even if it's a third slot, wide receiver, because you're going to get as much repetition as a number 2 in Tennessee or as a number 1 in Baltimore when they got the big guy Mark Andrews over there at tight end. So yeah, I'll leave that there and address your take about just the NFC in general. I think undoubtedly the Rams and the Buccaneers are your 2. And maybe you throw in the 49ers as your 3rd, and maybe you throw in the Cardinals, hypothetically, if Kyler Murray watches a little bit more film, maybe that be the 4th team right there as well. But all in all,
so you're just not going to mention the team that's had the best record in the conference the last 2 years.
You're talking about the Packers? No, I think they'll be under the Cardinals. Because you still gotta respect Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a bad dude, bro. He's a bad dude. So you're always gonna be in play. But I think you take away Adams, I think I like my chance a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? As a defender, I would like to see Alan Lazard. Okay, I don't want to see Adams. Alan Lazard. I'm glad to see you, brother. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let's get it on. But I think also, and I'm gonna just end here and then say you could respond. I think if you're the Buccaneers, when I'm trying to get my train of thought back, I think if you're the Buccaneers, there's another point that you made about how is the Buccaneers going to come out this year. And I think if you're the Buccaneers, you better come out because, number one, there's a couple reasons. The way how you lost last year was not pretty. The way how y'all season ended was not pretty. Y'all should have won that game coming back like the way y'all did, and y'all had a golden opportunity to go to a Super Bowl and possibly win it. Okay, another thing is that Tom Brady, this may be his farewell tour of a season, his last year. You may be going back to the land of irrelevant. You want to win another championship, and that's why you're going all in to do so.
Yeah, I think, you made a lot of great points. And I think, but for me, like I said, the signing being a big deal, I don't really see it as a big deal for the Buccaneers. I think it's a big deal for Julio Jones to get his name back in that limelight where he can still play football. But I don't think it's a Buccaneers big deal because I think the biggest news was getting Russell Gage, a 3rd receiver, a young guy, a guy who's able to move, a guy who's really crafty on the field. That was something that was like the biggest news for the Buccaneers because they got that 3rd receiver. Adding Julio Jones is also, of course, it's icing on the cake. You're adding a more veteran guy on this roster. And I believe, I could be mistaken, Julio Jones and Gage played on the same team together, if I'm not mistaken. So they already have camaraderie. cohesion together.
And they're familiar with the division too. Don't forget.
So there's a lot of familiarity with this team, with this division and team. So I just, like I said, Julio Jones is just the icing on the cake. He's trying to get his name back out there, that he's not some washed up receiver, some guy who's always hurt. He's a guy who will still play the game if given an opportunity to. And that's what this opportunity means for him on the Buccaneers. For the Buccaneers standpoint, I think Russell Gage was already their shine to be like, okay, let's go run it back. I think we could beat the Rams this time with Godwin, Evans, and Gage on the field. Even if they could add, even with Julio Jones, like, you have him on the field. I just don't think that the center of attention, or if Julio Jones is going to feel like I'm an impact on his team if he's not getting a ball often. So I think that could be a possible impact throughout the season to see if he really wants to stay there. Because what if he pulls an AB and says, I don't want to play, I'm not even getting a ball, I'm not even getting seen. There could be a situation when that happens, because we've seen throughout Tampa Bay last season, certain guys didn't get the ball enough. Now, I don't see it as a big deal for the Bucs. I just see it as more of a big deal for Julio.
I agree.
One more point that I'll bring up, and then I'm done here. And if anybody got anything to add on, then feel free. My last point here is when you go back to Julio, because a lot of people thought, right? You asked the consensus. It was out of the Buccaneers or the Colts. And a lot of people had the Colts being the number one, like a reunion with Matt Ryan and Julio. I think that's going to happen more so. If not, the Buccaneers will be that team. I always had Buccaneers number one. And I didn't have the Colts nowhere near there, because I think a lot of people forgot. And granted, there's a lot of things that has transpired in the National Football League since that one comment that I'm about to talk about. What Julio said one time really stuck and resonated with me. Let's not forget, when Julio, I don't think he requested a trade. He might have. I know he got traded. I don't know how that turned out.
That Shannon Sharp thing. Remember, he was on Undisputed, and he called up Julio Jones, and he was like, "What's the deal? Are you getting traded?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm out of there."
Yeah. So basically, it was mutual. More so, Julio wanted out. He said something about, I want to go to a situation where my quarterback has a strong arm to throw the deep ball. That's exactly what he said. And I took that as a shot to Matt Ryan. You know what I'm saying? Because why else would you say that? You know what I'm saying? I think that was a shot to Matt Ryan, and that's why I always thought that was unlikely, because you kind of threw him under the bus and said that, basically that his arm was not the same. So I always knew it was not going to happen, him reuniting with Matt Ryan, and more so what just happened, him reuniting, even though he never, him reuniting with Brady, but on the other side, on the same team, not in the Super Bowl, on the other sideline. So yeah, that's my last take.
Yeah, Brady's just got to hope he's not a secret agent, going out there for payback for that Super Bowl.